Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. My name is Lucas, and I have Eric here as always.
Hey guys.
And today we'll be taking a look at the 2020 Senate election in Massachusetts. In particular, we'll be focusing on the Democratic primary, because this is between Joe Kennedy, who is a Kennedy and a former current representative, against the incumbent Senator, Ed Markey. Why are we only focusing on the Democratic primary? Because this is Massachusetts. It's one of the most liberal states in the nation. Therefore, the Democrat will likely win the general election against the Republican candidate, whoever that will be. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So as I mentioned in the intro, Massachusetts is very liberal. It has voted for the Democrat in almost every single presidential election. It has not voted for a Republican for president since Reagan's landslide in 1984. So that kind of was that once-in-a-lifetime thing. Although in 2010, they did elect a Republican senator. I'll actually move to that right now, just to kind of show you guys. Scott Brown won the special election there. This was following the death of Ted Kennedy. After his death, Scott Brown decided to run in the special election. He ended up beating Martha Coakley by around 3 points. So we do think this was also kind of that once-in-a-lifetime type of thing, because this was a red wave year. This probably helped him in this election. As it says here, this is the last time a congressional election in Massachusetts was won by a Republican, and quickly in 2012, the famous Elizabeth Warren cleanly swept Scott Brown out from Congress, and she won the election. So let's head back to the Senate election now. So it's been established that Massachusetts is a very liberal state. So let's head into the candidates now. We'll start off with Joe Kennedy. I'll begin with Joe Kennedy here. Joe Kennedy is a Kennedy, as I said earlier. He's the son of Joseph P. Kennedy II, and he is the great-grandson. Joe Kennedy is the grandson, not great-grandson, of former President John F. Kennedy. Very famous. Let's dig a bit into his policy and everything he is. Currently, he is a representative in the U.S. House of Representatives, which I do think is a decent amount of experience if you're running for Senate. That is a decent amount of experience and a very solid candidate. Now, he did respond in 2018. He gave the Democratic response to President Trump's State of the Union address. Essentially, what happens is, if you don't know, the president gives a State of the Union address every single year, and someone from the opposing party gives a response to it. It was generally favorable, the response to it, and he was relatively praised for it. So let's get a little bit more into his policy now. He is considered to be relatively liberal. He supports Medicare for All, which is a pretty progressive policy. As you see here, he's a co-sponsor of Green New Deal, another progressive policy, which we'll actually dig more into with Ed Markey. He also is pretty socially progressive as well, supporting civil rights of Native Americans, opposing discrimination, and all racial inequality as well. So overall, a decently liberal candidate. Now, when Eric goes into Ed Markey, he is actually more liberal than Kennedy is. They are both very liberal. And Ethan Bloggy, who we did a collab with yesterday, compares this to Warren versus Booker, where one is more slightly liberal than the other one, but they're both still pretty progressive and liberal. In this case, Joe Kennedy is the slightly less liberal one, while Ed Markey is the more liberal one. Now, Eric, you'll be digging more into Ed Markey.
Yep. So Ed Markey is an incumbent senator, so that gives him that incumbency advantage. As Lucas compared, Markey is more progressive than Kennedy. While Kennedy sponsored the Green New Deal, Markey actually co-wrote part of it, which is another pretty progressive policy of recognizing climate change and trying to fight it back with this New Deal. he also supports gun rights, which Lucas will show. He supports, expansion on background checks and gun restrictions. He's also pro-immigration. He disagrees with Donald Trump on that policy, and he is support in a Medicare for all. And specifically, he is in support of an all-out single-payer system where there is no hybrid and everyone does fall under one payer system. And another factor that does give Markey a little bit of a leg up, in my opinion, is the fact that people are endorsing him over Kennedy. I think AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a freshman representative from New York, is endorsing Markey. They are both fairly progressive and share the same views. So I don't think Kennedy has gotten any major endorsements. So that might give him a bit of a disadvantage.
I think he does have some major endorsements, such as Senator Kirsten, who is also a freshman senator, and he got some representatives, including John Lewis, before he passed away. But it is kind of interesting to see that a lot of the big names, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Dick Durbin, Joe Manchin, Chuck Schumer, they all endorsed Ed Markey. And now we've seen this in the past before. They could be just endorsing the incumbent. We did kind of see this in the Bowman versus Engel election, in that a lot of the people, all the important figures, did back the incumbent there. So this election was in New York for a congressional seat in the House of Representatives between longtime incumbent Engel versus Jamal Bowman, who is a progressive. Now, Bowman did pick up some pretty major endorsements, such as Bernie Sanders and AOC, but a lot of the leadership in Congress did end up backing Eliot Engel, such as Nancy Pelosi, for example. So this could just be happening because he is the incumbent, but who knows? Maybe this could play some impact in the election. Now we're going to also look at the polling. Oh yeah, wow, that's a long list of endorsements. Polling does show Kennedy actually leading, with the most recent poll not conducted that recent though. Although May 5th to 6th, it showed Kennedy up by 16%. Margin of error 3.9. This is well out of the margin of error, 620 people. So I do think this is a pretty good sign for Joe Kennedy, and I do think that Kennedy is favored right now to win this election, with one of the reasons being polling. Although, again, it was not conducted that recently, but he was up in many of the polls, except for one. All right, now let's also take a look now at fundraising. So funding, we don't consider this to be a good indicator, and the reason for that is sometimes the numbers are misleading, in that in 2018, we saw Beto raising tons of money against Ted Cruz in the 2018 Texas Senate race, and he still lost. Fundraising is still a relatively good indicator, and the reason why is because if you have a lot of money, you can send all those ads out and get your name out there. Ed Markey so far has raised $10 million, Joe Kennedy $7 million. That's a $3 million difference. It's a relative amount, but I do think that at the end of the day, Joe Kennedy can probably come on top despite this $3 million gap between them. And I think that's it for the Democratic primary. Let's just quickly cover the Republican primary just to go through. Charlie Baker has declined running. Charlie Baker is a very popular governor, as a moderate governor in a liberal state. Should he have run, I do think this race would have narrowed up, but he did decline. The two people who have declared aren't really going to be taking that seriously. You have a conspiracy theorist and a scientist against an attorney. They don't have any elected experience, and this simply adds to why we think that the Democrat will likely win this state here, and every single rating is safe anyway.
Along with the fact that Massachusetts is such a safe blue state, as we said in the beginning of the video.
Correct. Hey guys, we just realized we forgot to do a part of the video we were going to do. We were going to talk about the debate that happened today. We do think it was very close, pretty much a tie. And overall, we do think this election will be very close. We have a relatively popular senator versus a well-known representative and a Kennedy. Plus, polling does back up Kennedy at the moment as well. So we're in for a really tight race. However, we do predict that at the end of the day, it's going to be a slight victory for Joe Kennedy, but we gotta wait and see what happens. And that is the end of the video for today. It's a short one today, but thank you all so much for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.